Howdy and welcome back. I'm Steven and this is FWP Reviews. August was a month of highs and lows. The highs weren't as high as they could have been and the lows were much lower than I had hoped. This is the good, the bad, and the mediocre of August 2021. In the past month, I saw a lot of movies, as usual. Additionally, my birthday fell in this month, so I had high hopes. With that in mind, the movie gods bestowed some great movies upon me. At least I choose to think so. But in turn, we also got some really, really bad movies. Let's get right into the movies I saw this month. The Resort is possibly one of the most laughably bad horror movies to have ever been released in the history of ever. Watching this movie at the beginning of this month made me feel like we'd gone back to January, starting off with a typical January horror movie. This movie is corny, grotesque, and an overall piss-poor experience. Pig is stunning and potentially one of the best movies that we will get this year. Nicolas Cage and Alex Wolff both give moving and stunning performances, with Nick Cage obviously giving the stunning performance of the year so far with his lead performance. He gives one of the best performances of his career in this movie and it helps to remind younger audiences that Nick Cage is a generational talent. The movie is a beautiful and somber meditation on grief. It makes you weep around every corner and man, is it beautiful. Vivo isn't awful, but it marks the end of the strong streak that we're seeing Sony Pictures Animation on this year. They've had a couple really good entries go straight to Netflix this year, and Vivo unfortunately was not as strong as those. It's generic, slow, and played out. It's unfortunate because I'd hoped for more life and less cliches, but Sony's got a Sony eventually, right? The Suicide Squad is what everybody hoped for back in 2016. This movie is dark, hilarious, compelling, and so much more. It highlights its excellent characters and makes something that brings me so much joy to watch. The writing and directing by James Gunn, as well as a lot of the newer elements that this movie brings in, bring it into the folds to be one of the great movies of the year. Val is a slow and relatively boring documentary. It manages to make up for this in part with its rich content. It talks about and dives into a lot of Val Kilmer's life that a lot of casual fans might not be aware of. It reflects on his long career and takes a look at what his legacy will be post his battle with throat cancer. Don't be sad because it happened. Smile because it's over. The Kissing Booth 3 is better than the first and worse than the second, but it not being as bad as the first is what we call a win for this series. It's boring, bad, and full of awful storylines. I am glad to see it go, don't get this misconstrued, but it's kind of unfortunate that the nonsense this series managed to put forward has come to an end, but another will surely take its place. Coda is another mildly compelling movie brought forth by Apple TV this year. The movie centers around the only hearing child of an all-deaf family. It has plenty of generic arcs and narrative beats. However, it manages to make up for that somewhat with its strong music, performances, and all-around atmosphere. These elements work together to make this movie a somewhat worthwhile experience. John David Washington is Beckett in Netflix's new action thriller, Beckett. This movie is nothing shy of a fever dream. After a man gets into a serious car accident that leaves his girlfriend dead in a foreign country, he gets mixed up in some dirty politics. It's a trip and it really tries to make something of itself. Unfortunately, the movie wasn't smart enough to make it work. Free Guy is a blast and one of the best theater experiences that I had this summer. It was a bit of a surprise to me how much I enjoyed this movie. With the help of exciting action, clever callbacks, and a compelling tale, I found myself invested and involved in this movie throughout. It has some flaws, but Ryan Reynolds' performance, the comedy, and the music all help to override them. I really hope I get to rewatch this movie soon. There are many fans of the first Don't Breathe movie, but unfortunately, I don't fall into that camp necessarily. With an objectively worse sequel coming, I braced for peril. And I was right. This movie stinks. It's all the worst gray morality segments of the first movie without the strong technical home invasion genre pieces. I am sad this movie ever saw the light of day. Get it? Respect is the new biopic about one of the all-time greats, Aretha Franklin. This movie is nothing short of completely technically sound with some stunning performances. Unfortunately, the movie is like a marathon, and not a fun one. It attempts to be extremely thorough, and that ultimately is the movie's fallback. It is so incredibly long, and that's all there really is to it, so it kind of falls under the mediocre category. Reminiscence could have been something great. Hugh Jackman lights up the screen with a strong and emotional performance. Unfortunately, the movie ends up playing out like any other noir drama. It never takes full advantage of the stunning sci-fi atmosphere and genre. This leads to a flat and forgettable movie, which is ironic because the movie is all about memories. Annette is nothing shy of one of the larger fever dreams I've ever experienced. I appreciate that this movie goes for it, but what the fuck? Adam Driver and the rest of the cast kill it, but that's about it. A large portion of both the narrative and the music for this musical just don't hit for me. I get the appeal, but it's just not for me. The Night House sees Rebecca Hall give one of the best performances we've seen this year, and I was surprised by that. This movie is a horror movie done well. It scares, and when it's not scaring you, it's made you feel like you should be ready for the next scare, even when the next scare isn't even close. Rebecca Hall's performance helps carry and make this movie more compelling, and it ends up being a solid horror movie overall. Test Pattern is a harrowing look at women's healthcare, especially in pertinence to how it relates to sexual assault, and specifically in the southern states, and then more specifically in Texas for this movie. This movie manages to effectively break the viewer down and put the full agony on display for the viewer. It tests the viewers like it tests the characters. The slow and methodical pacing can get a bit much for a movie experience, but overall it's extremely worthwhile. The Truffle Hunters is a great look at one of the most whimsical jobs ever, truffle hunting. It showcases the cooler aspects as well as diving into the nitty-gritty of it. It showcases the interesting personalities of this world and allows the viewer to become fully invested in the subjects of the documentary. The nitty-gritty aspects of the job, as they're shown in the documentary, can get to be a bit much, but overall it's a really profound experience. No Sudden Moves was a movie that could have been a lot more, but ultimately, it wasn't bad. I was hoping the stunning all-star cast would help the movie, and they did, just not quite enough. It's not a bad movie as much as I'm just let down by what was on screen. It feels lifeless at times for no real reason. Either way, it is relatively tense and full of decent twists. Monday is a trip and a lot for the viewer to take in. The story has its merits, but it doesn't reflect well on screen. The aesthetic of the movie clearly comes through as a priority, and that works against the movie. I had hoped for a more sweeping movie, but we got a subpar one, but it is what it is. Candyman is the new direct sequel to the first Candyman movie. This movie's downfalls are its really short runtime and quick pacing, as well as its on-the-nose thematics. However, this movie is brilliant otherwise. It borrows a lot effectively from the first movie, and it chills you to your core like the first did. I enjoyed it a lot, and for what my opinion is worth, I deem it a worthy follow-up to the original. Vacation Friends is weird, but some great laughs make it a somewhat bearable time. John Cena is again the standout in this movie as he continues to blow me away with his comedic excellence more and more. This movie definitely borrows from a lot of other movies, but it doesn't totally blow it in the end. He's all that? More like, why is Addison Rae in this movie? Boom, roasted. With that, we come to the end of my August summary video. I have a lot of exciting videos planned for September, and I'm excited to share them all with you, so stay tuned. Until next time, follow my Instagram at FWP-Reviews100 for daily written reviews about the newest movies. With that, this is FWP Reviews signing off. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.